Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Coming up this afternoon, Center for Democratic Development (CDD) calls for stronger measures to address the demand of kickbacks in the award of contracts. Former President John Dramani Mahama dares government to prosecute him and his wife over ownership of DKM. President Akufo-Addo's 1 year in office under scrutiny from political watchers. Also in the news, Accra Metropolitan Assembly demolishes structures in the Central Business District. And on the firing front, fears of an environmental disaster in East China Sea as a tanker continues to leak oil 2 days after colliding with a cargo ship. We have sports, entertainment, and all coming up shortly. To stay with us. Let's start with our stories. And the Upper East Regional Minister, Roxanne Bukari, has warned public officers against the demand for kickbacks in the award of contracts. Addressing a Regional Coordinating Council meeting in Bolgatanga, he alluded to the demand of 10% of contract sums by public officers, which he says does not only promote the execution of shoddy work, but also causes financial loss to the state.
It is evident that our nation's progress towards economic development has been hampered by the widespread of corruption. Successive governments have over the years attempted with varying degrees to uproot this social canker without success, with the last regime being the worst. Contract awards are tainted with corruption and favoritism and do not serve national interests, as awards may go to incompetent non-performers. The expression 10% is synonymous with corruption. In line with His Excellency's vision to fighting corruption, I have from the start publicly declared a tender committee, heads of departments, meetings, other public events, operation no 10%. And all contract awards must go to credible contractors without ethnic, political, or religious affiliation. This is to ensure the quality execution of projects and serve the people of this region, and to further ensure that there is value for money and the Upper East region will benefit.
And now I will be speaking shortly to Mensa Abrampa. He is the program's coordinator for the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Good afternoon and thanks for your time.
Good afternoon.
The regional minister has come up strong against the kickbacks, which is a 10% kickbacks. What do you make of his stance?
Thank you very much. And let me take this opportunity to commend the regional minister for his bold speech that he made in the occasion. And I also say I think he's picking his thoughts from the establishment of the procurement authority and the principles that establish the authority and implementing it in his region. This is what is expected of every leader in both the regions and the districts, to make sure that the tenets of accountability as established in the procurement ministry and the principles that underpin the ministry are implemented and follow up accordingly.
Now, you spoke about the Public Procurement Authority, and we do have, of course, that in the country, but is it enough to stem out such a canker, and even with the minister's voice added to this?
Sure. I did make a statement when your producer called me that we have a national framework of procurement to the extent that we've established a procurement authority, we have a Ministry of Procurement. We have, before even the establishment of the ministry, we have certain documents that guide MMDAs, that's Metropolitan Municipal Industrial Assemblies, as to how they should go about advertising for contracts and the limit at which you have to seek approval from the sector ministries. But over the years, we also have infractions as to the conformity to the established laws and principles. What you ask is not enough. We have to put in place proper monitoring mechanisms from the national right down to the district level as to the conformity to the established principles in regards to contract awards and procurement. Of course, now there's a system in place, GIVMIT, that allows all these people to register. There will be potential contractors in the system who provide their details to be acknowledged by the national authority, and whose contracts awards are shown on the net as approval sought before all payments are made. I think there are steps being put in place. What is left is we having a system that will check and monitor how they conform to these tenets.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I have been speaking with Mensa Abrampa, and he is a programs manager for CDD. You're still watching Midday Live, and former President John Dramani Mahama has dared the current government to prosecute him and his wife, the former First Lady, Lordina Mahama, if it is indeed true they had a hand in the establishment of the Pinzo Microfinance Company, DKM, that duped hundreds of residents of the Punafo region. He indicated that the New Patriotic Party, NPP, in opposition, peddled all manner of falsehood about the ownership of the company to the extent that they claimed he and his wife were majority shareholders for political gain.
DKM asemi bayi NPP for the intro say DKM ejumano ayamene meyere Lordina dia enti omoba ombeji sikanu oyeho no ma chichama enkrofo omoji free omohono.
Whilst in opposition, they said myself and my wife Lordina had a hand in the DKM establishment. Well, we are waiting them to come and prosecute us. They should come and arrest us and jail us. You can lie yourself into power, but you cannot lie yourself to govern forever.
Now, I'm sorry, Saudi Bakua, this outside Dimienu and throw a kahon, inside Dimia Sakahon. If you say, and throw it means that until a chassis aging him, this I would do Trobacco, a kahon, not to be chalky way. We will not me alone him. This all did from me and son account, not talking me alone. And so and try and I would call.
So staying on this story, and Adam Sanano is with the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. He's joining me via Skype. Good afternoon, Adam, and thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Now, the former President, John Dramani Mahama, has asked government or tasked government to investigate the issue in relation to the DKM saga, in which some concerns came up that himself and his wife were shareholders of that very company. Should government pursue this case?
Well, yes, if there is any evidence to suggest that the public is concerned about it, why not? I think that the issue may be a bit dated because it's not been in the public space for a while. But for the purposes of those who have been affected by what happened at DKM and their interest to the extent that they would want to know who is responsible for what happened to them, it may be useful for some kind of investigation if that has not already been done.
And what options are available as well for the former First family in clearing their names?
I think that I think ideally the most appropriate thing to uphold their rights would have been to take a case, to file a suit against anybody who made such allegations without any factual evidence. So if the former president is so minded, I think the most ideal situation would be for him to speak to his lawyers, to file a suit against those who made these allegations, especially where he believes that they have injured his reputation and his integrity. So I think that that's an option that the former president ought to consider very seriously.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. Edem Senano is with the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Away from that story, exactly a year ago, he won the mandate to lead the Ghanaian people with an unprecedented win over the incumbent government. For years, President Akufo-Addo sought the highest office of a presidency with determination and was rewarded as such. A year into office, we assess how the president has fared.
I, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo.
He toppled an incumbent NDC government, making President John Dramani Mahama a one-term leader.
Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths.
Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths.
Americans have ever been a restless, questing, hopeful people.
Ghanaians have ever been a restless, questing, hopeful people.
Starting off his administration with a huge public gaffe described by many as a scandal and an embarrassment for the country. With speed, he appointed the largest ministerial team in the history of the country, with many questioning his commitment to protecting the public purse. He called the bluff of his critics, defending it.
My view is that our country is better served by having on board in the executive men and women who are capable of working to reverse the situation. The men and women I've assembled are capable, they're strong, they're competent.
It beats my imagination. A government that says the battle is the Lord's wouldn't have to go into that battle with so many ministers. What do ministers know that they don't get taught by the civil servants? It breeds division. It works against our effort to bring about national cohesion. It is an unnecessary dissipation of national brains and talent. This is a developing country fighting hard to extricate itself from the quagmires of poverty and underdevelopment. We cannot afford to allow brains to go waste simply because they don't belong.
One scandal after another.
At no point from my vetting did I feel that my confirmation of my nomination was at risk.
Reality began dawning on President Akufo-Addo's government when its own started attacking institutions of state. The pro-NPP vigilante group Delta Force raided the Kumasi court and freed 13 suspects standing trial for the assault of Ashanti Regional Security Coordinator George J. in March, a major setback that rendered the president livid, many say. His directives seem to have been ignored by the party foot soldiers.
I have never accused her of being a lesbian, but it is in the internet everywhere. Everybody says she's a lesbian. I'm not the one who said it. I didn't say so. I haven't even heard it, but they are saying it. It's all over.
When dust was about settling, wranglings within his party and appointees surfaced with accusations of bribery. Then, an ardent supporter of the president, Kwame A+, attempted to smear allegations of corruption on the two deputy chiefs of staff. The two were subsequently declared by the police uncharged. One very unpopular, ethnocentric statement: Deputy Greek Minister William Kwetu resigned after he was accused of making ethnic comment against people from the north. While all these had happened in the beginning of the president's tenure, he did not lose steam. His quest to fulfill his campaign promise was his primary focus. A major promise offering free SHS, launching one district, one factory.
The one district, one factory policy will ensure an even spatial spread of industry.
He maintains he delivered. Other opposition parties don't seem enthused about it.
When there's going to be a heavy rain, you'll notice the way the clouds are forming. I am disappointed in what they've been able to do so far. It looks as if almost everything that they promised, they've come to try to do the opposite. And the only things they try to do as they have promised, perhaps, is the free SHS. And even that one, I'm sure they are learning lessons now that if they had listened to good counsel and planned it well, the nation would have been better.
Indeed, it is obvious that President Akufo-Addo, in his attempt to manifest some of the campaign promises that he made, is actually running this nation on a slippery road that certainly is not the way it should go. For instance, no one has criticized that free SHS is a bad policy. What we are seeing is that there has not been clarity of ideas and policy towards the manifestation of the free SHS.
They promised free education and they managed to implement a free SHS 1 to the disappointment of 2/3 of students in SHS and many parents who believed that with the award in the SHS, they were also going to receive a free education. That was a big disappointment to the 2/3 of beneficiaries of the senior high school that expected that the victory for Nana Akufo-Addo will translate into a free SHS for them.
On corruption, he has a strong stance against his critics.
There is nothing there. And with this desperate effort to stigmatize my government with corruption, it is not going to work. It is not going to work.
Flagging corruption for a long time without doing anything about it is also an act of corruption. Okay, the current government seems to be thinking too much about the office of the special prosecutor. Okay, it is good. It is an innovation in the fight against corruption. But I can tell you that the office of the special prosecutor cannot fight corruption alone in Ghana. So why do you put all your hope in one officer who may not even be independent after all? The prosecutorial power of the land is vested solely in the hands of the Attorney General.
He sends shivers down the spine of those who have criticized him of corruption not to wail when he begins to chase the rather more corrupt officials after he signed the special prosecutor law.
Public officials, past and present, are held to account for their actions.
Perhaps his signal to the international community of rather a self-reliant Ghana and Africa is pushing an agenda of Africa standing on its own.
Our concern should be with what do we need to do in this 21st century to move Africa away from being cap in hand and begging for aid, for charity, for handouts. The African continent, when you look at its resources, should be giving monies to other places. We have huge wealth on this continent.
President Akufo-Addo enters his second year in office with a promise of focusing more on homegrown solutions to Ghana's problems.
With just 1 year in office, President Akufo-Addo's administration has been rocked with too many scandals. The president has remained, however, resolute. He says his primary focus is to make Ghana work again. He will not lose steam and praise everybody comes on board to make Ghana a better one again. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
And President Akufo-Addo has credited the success of the Fourth Republic dispensation to the Ghanaian for the resilient conduct in the face of trying political circumstances in the past 25 years. The president was addressing attendees of a national interfaith Thanksgiving service held at Independence Square to commemorate Silver Jubilee anniversary of the Fourth Republic.
The interfaith service was attended by First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo, Vice President Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia and his wife Samira Bawumia, the Speaker of Parliament Professor Michael Quay and his wife, and the Chief Justice Sophia Ekufu. All living former heads of state of the Republic were also in attendance and participated in the service by reading scriptures for the day.
On the 10th day of the 7th month, on the Day of Atonement, sound the trumpet throughout your land.
Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs.
I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I'll store my surplus grain.
Both Christian and Muslim prayers were offered for leadership and the people of Ghana. President Akufo-Addo said the conduct of the Ghanaian citizenry is what is ultimately responsible for the sustenance of the 1992 Constitution.
Our goal has to be constant, to fulfill the hopes and aspirations of Ghanaians who yearn for improvements in their living standards, in conditions of peace, security, and solidarity, and to put Ghana onto the path to sustained progress and prosperity. We can hope for a brighter future because we are blessed with enormous wealth and human potential.
He called for continued commitment and hard work for effective development of the country.
And I'm confident that with a spirit of reconciliation, fairness, integrity, and hard work, the best days of Mother Ghana lie ahead of us. Together, we are laying the platform for the evolution of a new Ghanaian civilization, which will give true meaning to the foundational values of freedom and justice on which our nation was conceived.
This is Midday Live. We have more shortly. Thanks for staying. Hundreds of traders at Accra Central who failed to comply with the AMA's directive to stop trading on the pavements have had their wares seized by the Assembly. This was at the beginning of the decongestion exercise, which is expected to cover the capital in subsequent weeks. The Central Business District, Tudu, and the Tudu Lorry Station, TUC, and the Kwame Nkrumah Circle have so far been decongested. Our reporter, Kwabna Edujemfi, is with the AMA Task Force currently, and he joins me via phone to give us some updates shortly. Kwabna, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Wendy.
Now, what time did the exercise start and where exactly are you now?
The exercise started around 4 a.m. At the Central Business District, and it was being led by the Director and Mayor of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, that is Honorable Ajay Soa, sorry. And then you've already mentioned the places that the exercise took place, but then let me say that the exercise, today's part of the exercise has just come to an end. And one thing that we observed was that about 70% of the places that we went to initially realized that the traders had complied with the exercise. We realized that, a week before the exercise, before today, the AMA released a statement informing the public of such an exercise. And yes, when we went around, we realized that most of them did not ply or arrange their wares where they usually do, that is on the pavement. So that was an indication that, yes, they had complied to the directive. But then there are a lot of them too who did not comply to that directive, and for them, their items were seized. And we are talking about food items, we are talking about cosmetics, home theaters, clothing, and a whole lot more. So all those items have been seized by the AMA and they've been taken to their office. But as to whether they are going to get them back or not, that is one thing that we'll be finding out later on from the assembly.
Okay, is the AMA still implementing or using the red line, which was brought into force by the former mayor?
Okay, from this evening, the AMA is going to draw its own line. That is a new line, a yellow line. And what they are saying is that for now, you can use the red line, but then from tomorrow, by the time they come back to town, they will see a yellow line, and that is what they are going to use. So if tomorrow you come to town and you see a red line, and you as a trader are still working with the red line, no. Even if that means you flouted the law and they're not going to, you'll be made to face the law. But then they are going to have a yellow line. So when you come, you have to make sure that you are behind the yellow line. And all these activities are part of plans to ensure that we have a clean city. Wendy.
Now, let's look at security and the task force. Did you see military and police presence there? And was there some bit of resistance from the traders as well?
Resistance from the traders, I wouldn't say there were any. Initially, yes. Initially, there were some resistance from the traders. But then the funny thing is that these traders, when you even spoke to them, what they are saying is that, oh, yes, they are aware that such an exercise will be going on. And I'm asking them, so why did you wait all this while before for the AMA task force to come around before you start packing your wares or for them to be seized? And they are saying that, oh, sometimes these announcements are made and they never come around to enforce these laws. So they thought it was one of those things. So they were actually waiting to see if for sure the AMA task force will be coming around. And back to your question again, yes, there is massive police support over here, but then for military, no, there isn't any military person here. Wendy.
Before I let you go, were you able to interact with the mayor in relation to the compensation which has to be given to some of the traders who got their shops destroyed when the construction of the interchange was taking place?
The mayor is not willing to talk about that now, but then let me quickly add that, just about 2 weeks ago, TVC carried out an expose about the activities of commercial sex workers at the Kumasi on the railway line, those who were housed in these slums over there. And what the AMA is saying is that on Thursday, they are going to conduct a massive demolition exercise there, meaning the story that we did has gotten some results. So, of course, on Thursday, that exercise too will be taking place at the Kumasi or Wendy.
Thank you very much indeed, Kobna Dujemfi, for that update. We'll bring us some more updates in relation to the story later. But let's head to the Ashanti region, and the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has served notice to sustain an exercise to rid the streets of petty traders. The Assembly says measures have been put in place to ensure traders comply with directives under the decongestion exercise. The renewed drive to ease vehicular and human traffic within the Central Business District was carried out this morning. Our reporter Ibrahim Abubakar has details.
This is not the first time we are witnessing such exercise. It has happened on a number of occasions. This time around, what measures have you put in place to ensure that it is sustainable?
Thank you very much. I think this time around, there's one major important or unique thing about the relocation exercise. As an institution, we decided to listen to the traders and find out their concerns. Now, one major concern that they raised was the fact that the race course, which happens to be the major relocation site, was not properly done, and for that matter, the Assembly has to relook at it. As I speak, when the Honorable Chief Executive, Honorable Sayasi BNG, was sworn into office, one thing that he did was that the Assembly will have to make sure that we improve upon the facilities. When they were complaining about dust, that the place was so dusty, we have made sure that the road leading to the place and even within the race course has been tied. Now that the road has been tied, it means the dust is no more there. Now we also look at the security situation. Electricity has been provided or has been expanded. We have also expanded the number of police posts that we have there. Then we also graded the whole place with gravels. So in terms of facility, we have improved upon the relocation site, which happens to be the race course. Now, the other major important thing, so far as this relocation exercise, is concerned has to do with stakeholder engagement. Just last week, we engaged all the major traders associations, that is the Petty Traders Association, United Petty Traders Association, Elephant Movement, and then the main Pavement Movement Association. Apart from that, we also engaged the market queens from the central market, Bantama, and then the transport unions. Apart from that, the regional police commander and his 2 IC were also involved in a tour, including the Bantama Hene. What we did was that some of the traders are raising concern that they don't have areas to resettle. So the mayor took the stakeholders, ran all or some of the major satellite markets that we have within the metropolis.
We'll bring you some more of that as well in our subsequent bulletins. But away from that story, business has dipped drastically for the Ada Songo salt project. Managers say they can hardly sell less than 10% of the salt produced, and owing this to the influx of imported salt competing with the locally made ones.
Managers of the Ada Songo Salt project say their business is barely surviving as sales have dropped drastically due to the influx of imported salt, which is seriously competing with their product. Out of a total of 80% produced, they are able to sell less than 10%. The company currently holds huge stocks of unsold salt. The salt mining company says it had developed new business strategies to hit the market, yet the imported ones still give them stiff competition.
Of foreign salt into the market, and because those products are whiter in terms of color, people prefer them. Perhaps those importers are also prepared to go to any length, at least to capture the market by offering lower prices and other incentives to attract the customers.
They admitted the standards are adhered to, yet what is worrying was the environment, which makes it unattractive to buyers. A monthly production of 20,000 tons becomes a burden to even sell. Distributors, we were told, have shifted to the imported salt. Managing the salt mining, according to management, was now a headache to even pay the over 20 staff and the 200 workers. The Ada Songo Salt project was established some years ago to create the treasured white gold for the country. Currently, the project, which is owned by government, is struggling to defray debts, which is also affecting operations. The news team further visited the Kasai market in Ada, where most market women admitted that the local salt made in the area do not sell. Buyers now go for the iodidated ones and buy in large quantities.
And that's all for business this afternoon. Let's move on to other stories. And wife of the Lebanese national accused of raping his 19-year-old house help broke down today in tears at an Accra High Court, as the court was unable to hear the bail application due to the absence of state attorneys handling the case. The suspect, Hada Rabi, has since December been in the custody of the police, with his lawyers attempting to make an application for bail. The court was forced to adjourn after former Attorney General Marietta Brew Apiopong, who was watching brief for the house help, told the court that she had been informed the attorney handling the case was unwell. This did not sit well with the visibly unhappy wife of the accused, who started shedding tears in the open courts. Dogo adjourned hearing to January 9 for the application for bail to be moved. You're still watching Midday Live. Do stay. Welcome back. The Trades Union Congress has warned the current system of financing the National Health Insurance Scheme could lead to its collapse. In the view of the Deputy General Secretary Joshua Ansah, the NHIS can only be sustained if government adequately resources the authority. Was addressing the second quadrennial delegates conference of the National Health Insurance Workers Union in Kumasi. The conference provided members the platform to deliberate on pertinent welfare and administrative issues. Deputy General Secretary of Trade Unions Congress, Joshua Ansah, charged the Health Insurance Authority to be innovative in delivery of its mandate and expand coverage of the scheme. He noted the current source of funding for the scheme is insufficient to sustain it. National Chairman of NHIA Workers Union of UNICOF, Maxwell Maoli Nyadejo, commended government for its level of commitments towards the sustainability of the scheme. He supports the proposed increment of the NHIS levy in the 17.5% VAT rate from 2.5 to 3.5%. General Secretary of UNICOF, John Sananu Amegashi, tasked staff of the NHIS to play an efficient role in ensuring the effective delivery of health services in the country. But he expects the authority to be adequately resourced to motivate employees and improve on productivity.
The government should be able to address all these concerns, ensure that we diversify attention to other places to see how best we can resource the scheme to enable us live up to the expectation of the need to provide quality health services to Ghanaian citizens.
Next, we have international news. Now, there are fears of an environmental disaster in East China Sea as a tanker continues to leak oil 2 days after colliding with a cargo ship. Chinese officials have told state media the Sanxi is in danger of exploding and sinking. Rescuers attempting to reach the site were being beaten back by toxic clouds. The Transportation Ministry has said the crew of 30 Iranians and Bangladeshis, that's 2 Bangladeshis, remain missing despite international rescue efforts. One unidentified body has been recovered. The Panama-flagged Sanxi was bringing its cargo of oil from Iran to South Korea when it collided with a Hong Kong-registered freighter CF Crystal carrying grain from the U.S. in the East China Sea. We now go for entertainment. And the Executive Director of the National Theatre, Emir Piafrimpong, has urged stakeholders to sponsor theatre arts as part of their corporate social responsibility. Addressing the National Theatre's 25th anniversary, she lamented the slow patronage of theatre arts.
The National Theatre was established by the Rawlings administration to give meaning to theatre works in the country. Since its inception 25 years ago, the National Theatre has played host to a number of both resident and external programs of class. Notable among these are Fan World, Keysop Concert Party and Kidderfest.
Your chichi is sweet for me too much. What did you put inside for me, mommy?
Also prominent in recent times has been Roverman Productions. Musical and drama shows including Umoja from South Africa among others. Executive Director of the National Theatre, Emir Piafrimpong, says the anniversary opens a page for theatre in Ghana.
For the theatre represents the heart and soul of this country,
And I don't know how much you can pay for the heart and soul, your heart and soul. And so we need to recognize that we need to keep the heart healthy. And the only way we can do it is by taking good care of it, which means we need to invest in it to get the returns that we want.
She was worried effective partnership had been lacking over the years and urged stakeholders to make Theatre Act part of their corporate social responsibility.
It costs an average for a really good production with lights, sounds, costume. It's about 500,000 Ghana cedis. We need partnerships with the media so that the word will go out and people will actually come and watch.
The event recognized actors and actresses whose work had propelled the National Theatre to the present status. As part of the anniversary, the National Theatre will be touring the regions to showcase the importance of theatre in national development. The tour would also include exhibition of artifacts of the National Theatre and cultural heritage to bring the people closer to the National Theatre.
And that's all for this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Good afternoon.